Let me tell you how to find the best value used car on the market for your money. G'day. Teddy and Big Eyes the cat are just fighting off camera here, don't worry about them. Today I want to share with you some tips that I know really well about buying a used car. Briefly, before we get into that, the background behind me is not pollution. It's the result of several days' fires burning in the Gold Coast hinterland, which unfortunately has caused a lot of damage and destruction. At the moment of filming, there's over 70 fires burning. We've had a couple of days of strong wind and dust, and now it's reached my end of Brisbane, the smoke haze anyway. Also, I'm again filming all the wrong ways, have the camera too low, so you're seeing double chin. It looks like I'm baldy on top, but I'm not. Okay, so with that in mind, please forgive me and let's go on. Now, I've bought and sold a lot of used cars in my time. I used to do it for a bit of a hobby. I'd buy cars from auctions. But today I'm going to give you some vital tips when you are looking for a car to buy. In my last video I showed you my F100 truck and a quick look at some of the other special vehicles I've had. This is not specifically about them, because sometimes that's a case of supply and demand. So this guide to buying used cars is about your basic normal used car, of which there are plenty. Now, recently we looked at a vehicle for a friend who's overseas but coming to Australia shortly, and he had a specific vehicle in mind. Wait on, you got to see this. Wait! Stop it! Hey! Oh goodness. Stop! I don't know if I'll include that in the cut. Stop it! Wait! Stop it! Stop it! Get inside! Go! Okay, you saw that live. That wasn't planned. Anyway, sorry for the interruption. They both want to be on camera, you see, that's the problem. That's not really the problem. Teddy, behave. Now, I'm actually very good at buying used cars, and I've helped a lot of people out. I kind of like the chase, I guess, and knowing a few things about cars. Yeah, I enjoy it. So when people say to me, can you find me the best car for the money? Stop it! Big Eyes, stop it! The first thing I ask is, what is your maximum price range? What specific vehicle do you want? So you have to have that in mind first. Don't just think, oh, I'll buy a used car. Have a look around, whatever, shop online, whatever, to see what you'd like. When you have that in mind, we'll proceed from there. Now, I always start by, and I'll refer to being in Australia. If you're not in Australia, you'll have other websites. In Australia, there's Car Sales is the #1 site. There's also Gumtree. Anyway, as a guide, I'll look at Car Sales. I'll set the search parameters to the specifics that they need, or I need if I'm buying a car. First of all, do I want an automatic transmission or a manual transmission, which in the US they call a standard. So the next key step, find the latest model vehicle you can with the least amount of kilometres or mileage. Then start at your maximum price range and see what's listed. When you've narrowed it down to some good vehicles, go and check one out, but don't just check one vehicle out, no matter how good it looks when you get there. always check at least 2, possibly 3, because you may find the one that you check next is a lot better. Stop it! Big eyes! No! No! However, don't look at 20 cars, because if you've looked at a few, you've got the ballpark idea already, what you'll get for your money, roughly the same mileage you'll find, and then it's a case of price. And don't go and look at a vehicle if it's not what you want. For example, a friend I had wanted a specific model and make of car. He really liked the one he saw online, but he wanted a manual, standard transmission, not an automatic. And this one was a really nice car, but it was automatic. I said, don't buy it, no matter how good it looks. If you specifically want that transmission versus an automatic, and vice versa, if you want an automatic transmission, don't look at a manual, because you have to live with that car. And what's the point in having a really nice car and you're going, oh, I wish I would have got the automatic / manual. There's none. I did that on a side note with my Harley Davidson that I used to have. I always wanted a Harley Fat Boy, and I saw a really nice Heritage Softail, which is almost the same, but it wasn't the Fat Boy. And I looked at a couple and I thought, no, it had taken me a long time to save up the money to buy. So sometimes you have to wait a little bit, and pretty well exactly a month later I found the Harley Davidson Fat Boy that I really wanted, and that's the one I bought. So back to buying a car. And now this friend specifically wanted a Toyota Tarago, which is called a different name in other countries. So I worked out what his maximum price he was willing to pay was, very maximum, and set about looking at a few over a period of 3 weeks. Probably saw a little bit more than I would have been happy with, but anyway. That's the vehicle we end up buying on his behalf. It's currently here, and because naturally I wasn't intending to vlog this or anything when I went to see these different cars, I wasn't about to take video in front of the seller. So I'll use this vehicle before it goes to the new owner as an example. And this is how I tend to do a walk around of a vehicle the very first time I see it. Okay, the first thing I do, check the windscreen for any cracks. I'm pretty quick at this, checking the front for little things like stone chips. Check the bumpers, check the lights. In this case they're okay. Quite often these are faded because they're plastic, so bear that in mind. Walk around, have a quick look at the wheels. Not any major problems. Check for fading, scratches. You see there's a deep scratch there and there, which can be buffed out if they're not too bad. Windows are fine. Come around the back, looks pretty good. Okay, first thing you notice is little nicks and cuts in the plastic bumper. Keep walking around. Okay, so now you can see there's a bit of a dent there, more scratches, another scratch. Otherwise it looks pretty straight. Tyres are alright. Yeah, not too bad. Now, something to bear in mind, you can point out these flaws that you find verbally, but don't be obnoxious about it, and don't be bombastic. Just mention them. They can be used as a point in which to reduce the price later on, if it's the vehicle you want. Things like loose trim, etc., that you might find as well. But always be polite. Remember, this person has given up their time as well to show you the vehicle that you've come to look at. In your head you may know that, look, I can fix that. Otherwise, factor into it, well, you know, that could cost $300 for a panel beater to fix. You want to check down the sides for straightness. Checking for any accident damage that you can tell. When you look closely, if there's any accident damage, you will usually find the paint repairs aren't that great. Even if you don't know what you're looking at, you should always at least have a look at the engine bay. It should present cleanly without any obvious oil leaks or anything. Battery terminal shouldn't be all fluffy. Basically what you're looking for is that it appears to be well maintained in its life. Pull the dipstick out, preferably on a level surface, and you want to check the engine oil is quite clean. I've found very often people will claim the vehicle's just been serviced, but in fact the oil's quite black. If it has only been serviced within, say, the last 1,000 kilometres, have a smell of the engine oil. A slight smell of petrol, gas, whatever you want to call it, is normal in that circumstance, but it should be clean, and make sure it's not below the minimum level. Okay, now we're going to have a look in the interior. So, quick look around here. Pretty good. Check the hood lining. You'll soon be able to tell whether it was a smoker's car or not. In this case, check the doors, make sure they're okay. Pretty good because this has been detailed, but and obviously you'd check inside the boot and everything like that. After you've had a look at the oil, give it a start up. Now the very first thing I always do, even in winter, is you want to check the air conditioning. And make sure it's nice and cold, which it is in this case. Very good. Now the air conditioning, it should pretty well get cold straight away. If it takes a couple of minutes, but it does still get cool eventually, what you're probably looking at is maybe as simple as a regas, which should cost you $100. Just shop around for prices. Check the odometer, make sure it matches what the ad says. Check the condition of the dash, etc. Also make sure the stereo works as well, and any reverse cameras, etc. Often the vehicles are advertised with logbooks. Make sure you check those logbooks and make sure they've been dealer stamped, that they've been regularly serviced. I was dismayed to find a couple of sellers actually said just serviced in their ad, but they either clearly weren't, or when I asked to see the logbook, yes, it was stamped, but it was over like 1,000 kilometres ago. So I wouldn't say it's just serviced. On automatic transmissions, while you're sitting, put your foot on the brake, keep it on the brake, and move the lever from reverse to neutral to drive and back, slowly. Now it should never take more than about a second for you to feel it shift into reverse or into drive. If it takes more than a second, there's usually an indication that there's something amiss, and you probably want to steer clear of that. It may be as simple as it needs a service, but then again it may be a rebuild on the cards, which you don't want to be footing the bill for if you're trying to save money buying a car. Also, never look at vehicles at night, because as the Pet Shop Boys say, we all feel better in the dark. You need to look at a vehicle in bright daylight. That way all the little flaws and everything can be easily seen. At night time they're completely camouflaged. Now sometimes, if you know what you're looking for, you can lay down on the ground and see underneath, depending on the vehicle's height. On the average sedan, you probably won't get to see much anyway. But if you can, and I won't go into the extent of mechanically checking a vehicle, but even if you don't know what you're looking for and you do have a squiz, obviously you don't want to see any rust there, or certainly no structural rust. And look for damp patches, which could indicate oil leaks that may or may not be an easily or affordably repairable item. Look around the suspension, etc. Under the transmission or gearbox, under the engine. Check the state of the engine is relatively clean and tidy. Okay, so you found the vehicle that you really like. Unless it is a vehicle that you really are genuinely interested in, don't waste the seller's time taking it for a test drive. But you found the vehicle you're really interested in. So now time for a test drive. So you're on your test drive. The essential things you're feeling are, does the steering have any bad knocking in it? Is there bad vibrations? The brakes nice and smooth? Things like that. And the aim isn't to thrash the vehicle. I mean, it is still not your vehicle to do that. But you do need to at least floor it on one occasion, just to make sure that yes, there's plenty of pickup there. Does the transmission, if it's an automatic, kick down the lower gear if necessary? So while you're driving the vehicle, if it's a manual, well, make sure it shifts relatively smoothly. Make sure the clutch feels like there's plenty of clutch there. It's a bit difficult to gauge if you're not used to that vehicle. Things like that. You've taken it for a test drive. If you are serious about that vehicle, a lot of people, and again I'll use what we have in Australia, RACQ or RACV, in your own country, the Motoring Association. Or you can get a local mechanic to check the vehicle. Obviously you'll only go to that extent if it passes what you feel you want and it looks acceptable to you the way that you'd like it to look. You may want to get it mechanically inspected, and that may be like conditional on the sale. So as long as there's nothing, if you pay someone to do it, and in the case of the RACQ in Queensland, that could be $200 or $300. So make sure that you're serious about the vehicle, because otherwise you're just throwing that money away. And they will often pick up things, in fact they'll often pick up things that are too pedantic, which really doesn't matter. And we're talking about every stone chip and everything. But they can also pick up things that you may not, and there might be a seam that's obviously been badly repaired, indicating that the vehicle was in a bad accident. You want to stay away from that unless you get it really cheap and you're prepared to pay the money to get it fixed properly if it hasn't been. So all being equal, buying and selling cars is a game, and most people know the game. Everyone will list the price higher than they would really accept. So pick an arbitrary figure. Say they want $5,000 for the vehicle, really. They might list it at $6,500. And they know you're going to haggle with them. And this is a little bit of a subject I'll touch in a future video, selling a used car. Now, you don't want to be insulting. If they're asking, well, let's say they're asking $10,000 for a vehicle, you don't want to offer them $2,000. I mean, be real, they're not going to take that, are they? I'm pretty good at gauging, before I even go and see the vehicle, what that person would probably take. Often I'll just say to them, look, what is the bottom line, the absolute lowest price you'll take? Say they're asking $10,000. You might want to lowball them a bit and offer $8,000. Knowing full well they'll probably say, well, I'll take $9,500. So you come up a bit. Well, how about $8,500? Then, in all likelihood, the general thing is they'll go, well, I'll take $9,000 and that's it. If you're happy with that price, you have a deal subject to any inspections that you've arranged. Make sure when you do actually come to buy the vehicle that you get a receipt with the engine number and VIN number on it, because you'll need that to register the vehicle or transfer it to your name, etc. Now, whilst this video was about buying used cars, a lot of people don't realise that you can negotiate quite substantially a price on buying a brand new car, and I'll cover that in another video. Anyway, thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for the next one, where I'll cover more of the aspects I've mentioned. I'd like to dedicate this video to a good friend of mine that died late last week, and that's John Woods. You would have seen him playing bass guitar quite often in some of the previous Eagle Rock Cafe videos with Jim Cooper's band, Coops DeVille. John tragically passed away from a heart attack. It's left all of us quite devastated. So John, I dedicate this video to you, mate. Thank you so much for your friendship.